Well, Alia, why don't we jump in now? I think we've given people enough
Sure.
time to make the digital commute, and
All right.
so so I don't know how much of an introduction you want. I mean, we're really excited to see what you've got here for us. You
Thank
know,
you.
and I guess I'll just throw it to you to kick us off.
Great. Show of hand, everybody, or in the chat, whatever, if you have any kids. And I'll give you, okay, I can see one person, two people, I think. All right. So, um, then you must have dealt with child benefits, or if you're like me, who doesn't have any kids, you must have heard of a story of one of your friends or, relatives who had to deal with child benefits and whatnot. This is the story of one of my colleagues that she was telling me about the other day, where she had a problem with her child's benefits. And to resolve it, she had to go to Canada Revenue Agency. You know, it was the only way that she can actually solve it is to go to them to get it resolved. So you're most probably wondering why I'm kind of telling this story, and why did she go to, the reason that she went to the CRTC was CRTC. Sorry, I'm thinking of Rob's I'm thinking of Rob's presentation, or the reason she went for CRA is because they are the authority source on that child benefit. So kind of same thing, we've heard it, um, you know, when you're using open data, you want to trust that the data is coming from authority figure. And that's exactly what I'll be showing you, over our next 30, 45 minutes. Just like my friend went to CRA to fix her problem, I'll be showing you two resources that I really encourage you to look at. And they that are considered open data that comes from authoritative sources. So the first, I'll be speaking about the Community Map of Canada, and then I'll be walking you through the Living Atlas of the World. The reason why open data is so important is because anyone and everyone can access it. It can be used to be more engaged with their businesses, with your community and society. That's what Jack Dangerman had mentioned about open data, and why is it so important in our lives. So earlier today, you may have heard Bernie Boyd speak about her concerns regarding, the health of the data out there, the importance of data governance for authority, and building an ecosystem. So that is what we will be talking about as we go along. As a Community Map of Canada advocate, I get to work with the many authorities that share their data, whether to the Community Map of Canada or the Living Atlas. Sometimes they're one and the same. So prior to 2011, national and provincial data sets were available or existed in some digital form. However, they were significantly out of date and not well integrated on a national level. And that gave birth to the Community Map of Canada to address that need for accessible and simple to consume, up-to-date national web-based map, which is basically the common ground that communities can use to collaborate. Again, you've heard it from earlier, talk to your neighbors. I believe Rob Harrison did mention it in his Leveraging NG 911. This, using the Community Map of Canada base map becomes your common ground on which you can communicate, because everything is matched to like a standardized schema. So our approach when we started the program is to advocate for open data access of the GIS data layers that make up the map. And in this endeavor, ESRI Canada acts as the aggregator of that data, and not so much, it provides that data in a different form. Through our collaborations with contributing community across the country, we're able to keep this community map up to date and accurate. Each community gets to see their data reflected accurately on the base map. The base map provides a common reference to which information is shared, necessary for planning their communities, providing insightful analysis, and making significant social and economic decisions, and kind of having a better communication. In order to achieve this up-to-date national base map, it was necessary to collaborate with the close organizations or the authoritative organizations who actually either own the data or manage the data day in and day out. So through this base map or this program, we collaborate with all levels of government, whether it be the federal government, the provincial, the municipal, or even Indigenous communities. We also collaborate with universities and colleges, as well as some infrastructure organizations, such as airports and ports authority. They are the custodians or the owners of the transactional data. Actually, 75 or over 50% of our data that's available on the Community Map of Canada does come from open data sources or open, government open data sites. And not just that, but the Community Map of Canada also relies on an advisory council that's made out of 9 community advisors to kind of help us with, the product direction and making sure that the map is always usable by everyone. Every night, over 350 contributors or authorities are actually that share their data on the Community Map of Canada are pinged for their daily updates, while a new version of the base map is published twice a week. So I don't think I've heard of any other base map that has that same cadence for updates. So you can visually go to the Community Map of Canada, explore it, see what's happening, and also discover who is on the map and who's not. The success of NG 911 depends heavily on GIS data that comes from authoritative sources, meaning that the local governments are actually responsible for their data's readiness. Again, referring to my colleague's earlier session, Rob Harris, that data needs to be assessed and validated before sharing to the aggregators. How the Community Map of Canada helps municipalities is basically it incorporates the current National Emergency Numbering Association schema or standards. So by communities sharing their data or having their data in open data sites where we can actually consume it, makes it a lot easier to publish all that within the Community Map of Canada, bringing communities a little bit closer to their NG 911 readiness. Additionally, we have, ESRI Canada does have some complementary applications that will take communities' data a little bit further. But at the start, Community Map of Canada can help communities with that. You would have, because we understand the importance of, base maps and how they play a part in the delivery of certain applications and whatnot, there are 6 standard styles out of the box kind of thing that you can explore. There's the topographics, the hybrid imagery, the streets, street nights, light gray, and dark gray, available out there for anybody. You can, and if you have any application that consumes REST URLs, you can easily use the REST URLs for those maps into that application and be able to consume them. So I'd like to share with you an example of one of our open data providers, or a municipality that does have open data from which we use their data. City of Penticton is a great example of that. And, you know, as you can see on the screen now, that is their open data site from which we grab their data. If I were to, you know, share or show you community map of Canada in comparison or side by side with OpenStreetMaps, and we'll do a little bit of a live demo here. And that's, as I said, my plugin for thanking my colleague, Amanda, for creating this story map for me. She's the techie, I'm not. So as you can see here, this is Penticton on the community map of Canada versus how Penticton appears on OpenStreetMaps. Not that there's, you know, there are certain areas that are missing, but seeing them on the community map of Canada, you are assured that they're coming directly from the city, and it's not, you know, a third party or someone who's not official to actually share that data. So an example, taking that data from Penticton and them using the community map of Canada for their applications. This is just an example of one of their apps. It's a public app on their, you know, on their website that is available for the whole community. And again, whether it's the city or the residents of Penticton, they're all looking at the same thing in a way. They're all using that community map of Canada and open data as their common ground to explore the city a little bit more. So these are the community map of Canada is a base map that's available on the Living Atlas. So that is kind of one of the categories of the Living Atlas, which is the second resource that I'll be talking to you about today. In addition, there are 7 categories on the Living Atlas that you can explore. So imagery is one, boundaries, environment, infrastructure, people, and whatever is trending, whether it's newsworthy or event related. The Living Atlas of Canada is a geographical warehouse of curated, ready-to-use maps and apps. Again, the content comes from authoritative sources or created by ESRI and curated by ESRI using those open data resources or data out there. Little technical difficulty. So I'll be talking about now each of these examples and showcasing you some of the, you know, applications that you'll be able to explore. You don't need to be, you know, an ESRI, you don't need to have the ESRI platform, but you can easily explore some of these resources. So for imagery, you'll be able to see something like the multispectral land use, Landsat 8, the 30 millimeter imagery, Sentinel-2, level 2, 10 to 16. You'll also be able to see North American land coverage in 30 millimeter. It's an application. Again, you don't need to have ArcGIS to be able to explore these applications. There's also something like the feature extraction for deep learning packages, or a personal favorite is the World Imagery Wayback app. Oops. And there's a little demo here for you to kind of explore a before and after of how that, for that area, what it looked like using imagery. Next up is we're going to look at environment. The Living Atlas has like a plethora of planet indicators. You can see things like air quality, drought, life wildfires, conservation, deforestation, and of course, topic that we've been hearing for the past two and a half years is COVID-19 cases. You can also get indicators such as earthquakes, cyclones, Arctic sea ice, coral bleaches, global temperatures, and even women in parliament under the category of environment. Some additional kind of focus applications that you will see. The BC wildfire dashboard, that has been a great resource for many of BC's residents to look at and kind of keep updated on the state of wildfires in their areas. And this is actually using the community map of Canada in a dashboard and being put up on the Living Atlas. So you get to see how all these resources come together. You'll also find an application such as the Northern Tornado Dashboard. Again, that is, I believe it was copied from one of the US sources, but again, created for Canada. The Canada Parks Conservation Story is a story map that tells, a story map application that you can also explore, and it uses all that data that is open for the public. And then there is the permafrost mapping in Nunavik, Quebec. So again, applications available for you. You do not need to have, any of the ESRI software to actually explore it. In terms of infrastructure, you will see things like a Montreal 3D scene. And again, this has a little bit of a demo in there. So you can have a look at that, how Montreal would be, set up in 3D. There's the World Traffic Services, and our friends at OpenStreetMap Amenities in North America are also applications or web maps that are available for the public. In terms of people, we've used the Census 2021 data, open data, of course, Canada statistics data, to create this application of age and gender using that information. One of my personal favorite is the SPARS, the Social Planning and Research Council in BC. They've had someone go out and explore their or assess parkings for the disability parkings or accessible parkings. Accessible parkings around the city, and kind of give the community and the residents information about whether these parkings, fit the bill or not. And of course, if you are looking into the health or pandemic kind of focus, you can see something like the global monkeypox outbreak. There is a similar one for COVID. But again, these are all resources that are out there. And if you're concerned or, you want some of these tools to be in kind of live feeds, there are several of them that are live feeds, especially if they're related to weather or natural disasters. You can see, the trends and what's happening with them. When we look at, living live feeds for Canadian content, the Environment Canada current weather, that's an hourly application. It gets updated every hour. The active floods in Canada is updated every 4 hours. And examples of hourly apps that are available on the Living Atlas are the Alberta River Basin Metrics. It's an hourly update. And then the active wildfires in Canada is every 3 hours. And electric charging stations, if you own one of those cars, there is a daily update on that application as well. So again, the currency, you can trust the currency of the resources that you're looking at. So there are 3 ways that you can actually access whether the Community Map of Canada or the Living Atlas is going to the Living Atlas website, livingatlas.arcgis.com. And again, you can easily browse whatever you're looking for. And so here's a little demo of what you can do. You can browse through either through the category or a search directly into the search bar. And under each of the 7 categories that I walked you through, there is also subcategories under there. So here are the base maps, and you can select, find the Community Map of Canada ones. And for any of the items that you're looking for, you can include into your favorites if you do have an ArcGIS account. If you do have, the ArcGIS platform, Living Atlas is also available to you through, ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Pro. It's always also available there. And one of my favorite dashboards, and again, you will be able to find it on the Living Atlas, it's called Canadian Content Dashboard. And this dashboard, again, took a lot of time from my colleague, Farah Hawk, who couldn't be here for this session. We initially applied together, but she had to be in Redlands. She's the Living Atlas curator. So what you will see at the top left, and I can do another demo of that dashboard. So what you can see on the top left here is her curated pick of the week, or you can actually go into how many items are available onto the Living Atlas. Just below that, you will see what is trending for the week, top applications that are trending for the week, as well as the newest items that are being added. And then because we love maps, map is taking center stage of the application. And you can even, drop a pin on, not drop a pin, but you can open up any of these dots or dots, and you'll be able to find the actual content and open it up from a hyperlink in here. For example, this is the census data, so you can see it as well, in a map viewer. Going back to the dashboard. And then you also get to see the live feeds right under the map. And then we have a top category and the top items, and items that are also bilingual for anyone that's interested. So bringing it back to Jack's quote, the reason why open data is so important is because anyone and everyone can access it. They can use it to be more engaged in their businesses, their communities, and society. And I would encourage you to explore these applications or these resources. They are available to you. And if you'd like to talk to either myself or Farah, we are available by email or on LinkedIn. Definitely reach out to us and we'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you. And yeah, I'm happy to take questions now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alia.
No problem.
I had no idea there's that much open data available.
Then I did my job.
The rest of my afternoon is shot now as I play around on this website. Excellent. Questions either in the chat or in the room? Questions from people?
Are there questions? I need to look.
None in the chat yet, but I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
How do what if I want to get my data up there? How does one get their data onto this atlas? So as a contributor, if you are an authority figure, you'd reach out to me and I'd help onboard you. So that's as simple as it is for many municipalities that we talk to. All you need to do is just let us know. We'll do the work for you. Don't worry about the state of your data, because what ends up happening is we would field map that data to our schema. As I mentioned, it is
NINA compliant. So basically we'll take it, we'll field map it. And, one of the things that I'd really like to stress is community data is not edited, right? All we do is we match it to our schema. But let's say someone comes in and they see, they use our feedback app and say, hey, this road is incorrect. We won't actually edit it ourselves. We will take it back to the contributor and say, can you verify or can you edit? Because they are the ones who are the authority figures. And that's why we like to work with them, because we know it's trusted. All we do is publish it or act as that aggregator and ensure that the publication, is always ongoing. So daily pings for any updates from our 350 contributors or more, and then a new version of the base map is published twice a week.
So you mentioned earlier you need to be an authority figure on the data. What does that? What exactly does that mean? Like, I mean, like municipalities, for example, like the source of truth of the data, I'm assuming.
Exactly. That is very true. You need to be the data owners, right? You are the ones who maintain the data. You are the ones who update and can be, basically the authority on that data.
So that's, I mean, obviously governments are an obvious example of that, but say
right.
If I'm a private company, but I am the owner of that data, that would still qualify, yes? Or
so it depends on if it's data that can be used in a base map. For example, private, or they're not really private companies, but transportation organizations, right? Or infrastructure organizations such as airports. They're the authority on their data for the boundary of the airport and what's happening inside the airport and so on, right? So that's how we get to work, or, that's how we get that data.
other questions? Sure. I mean, do you have any questions for us?
What are you guys, using?
What are we using?
Yes. I think it was Paul in the earlier session. He was saying, I think it was Paul. You mentioned that, there's all this data, but you can't really figure out how to properly use it. I guess, Paul, my answer, or my comment to that question, this would be an example of how open data is used or curated to provide something that's a little bit more useful than just data. It helps you that way.
I mean, my answer to your question, what data I'm using, so I think I mentioned earlier in the last session that, I describe myself as a social artist, in the sense that I paint things using people. And so my data sets are social data sets. And so social data sets could be like social media, Twitter, it could be LinkedIn, a lot of social connections, conversations through people at conferences like that. Those become my data sources. And from those data sources, I see patterns. And from those patterns, I try to move the data through the network to places where it can have the biggest impact. So a bit of a weird answer to your question, but I guess that's how I'd frame the way I use data.
Okay. So it's a different, I mean, I'm presenting some geographical or geospatial uses of data, open data, right? I think you are doing it in the arts form, right? They can be combined at some point in, through an app or something like that, but definitely there are two different forms of open data, I would say.
Yeah. Anyone else? How are you guys using? Where are you guys going for data? How are you using data in your work and your play?
Well, I work at the Federal Youth Secretariat, and we put out Canada's first State of Youth report last year, and we did our own primary data collection. This is qualitative data. We're talking about youth perspective, and contributed to the Open Government website. And so we're contributors in that way. But now I'm trying to explore alternatives or additional ways of complementing the sort of labor-intensive, rigorous way of engaging with individual people and collecting perspectives, and then having other people, make sense of all of this qualitative data, match it with quantitative data, and then tell a story. So in a nutshell, that's kind of where I'm coming from, and I'm just curious about this piece that you guys were just talking about, how there's qualitative, there's quantitative, and I feel like you really do need both to tell a story. But of course, we live in a world that responds a lot more to numbers than anything else. And so that's a constant challenge when it comes to being able to paint a quality picture from where I'm sitting, to be able to use the two. So I'm listening to your presentation and I think, okay, this anchoring things in space is a really straightforward way of doing things. Anything can be mapped geographically, basically. And so that's a nice way to sort of have a platform.
Visualize it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And these are the sort of the spaces we're operating in, trying to respond to a whole bunch of different needs. So we generate a little bit of data, but I'm trying to be a little bit more on the receiving end and trying to figure out if there's new ways, different ways, better ways of mixing open data that's out there with some storytelling that we can also harvest from communities on our own. So maybe that's just an answer to your question about what are we doing? That's what I'm doing.
Well, I like that, because we've talked a bunch about at this conference about data by itself isn't enough. You need to be able to communicate that data in a way that is compelling and engaging and solves a problem for people. And so I think the storytelling piece becomes really important.
I mean, ultimately, in our case, the work is meant to have youth perspectives, multiple perspectives, as rich as the diversity across Canada, informing policymakers and program makers, right? So they're our ultimate audience, because we want these perspectives to actually have a landing pad for people to move to action. And I think that's also an important thread here about, we're talking about impact,
There is some, I work for ESRI Canada, and Alia, that's Jason here.
Hey, Jason.
Just listening about the storytelling piece, there is a product that we have called Story Maps. And what that is, it's basically the ability to create a website that basically takes spatial data, numbers, those types of things, and allows you to create a story around anything that you want to make. So as of today, I think it's today anyway, that capability, that product called Story Maps, resides in something called RTS Online. So there's licensing that's required to get access to that. But what ESRI has noticed is that the impact and power of telling a story is paramount. So what they've done, and I'm not sure what the release date is, but they're actually taking Story Maps, reducing some of the capabilities a little bit, and opening that up to the world. So every single citizen, every single person in the world can create their own story with a $99 license or whatever the cost is going to be for that. So it can be extremely impactful in terms of the data that you have, the story that goes with that, and the graphics that you put in that to tell your story. And once you've been able to publish it, it becomes available to anybody in the world to take a look at.
So I can actually show one example of that I showed, but actually do a live demo of it, which is Penticton's public walks. Just give me a second, trying to find trails. Nope, that's not the one. Where's there? Dogs in the park. Nope. Okay, I guess I need a little bit more time to find it. I had it earlier today, because I grabbed it. But, okay, City of Penticton. Open data. Okay. Oh, there we go.
While you're looking for that, Alia,
Yeah,
for
go
everybody
ahead.
that's interested, if you go to storymaps.arcgis.com, you'll find a huge example of different story maps that have been authored by a variety of different people around the world, and more information about the capabilities of that particular software. And like I said, I'm not sure when ESRI is going to be releasing it as a
Can I?
open license, but it's coming very soon.
I'm sharing my screen now. Amantai?
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is an example of, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
I'm Natasha Viro.
Hi, Natasha. So yeah, this is an example of story maps that Jason is explaining. This is what City of Penticton did. So you can use a map within the application or not, but basically they're trying to tell the story of where you can see public art around the city. And, over here, it shows you kind of an overall view of all the locations, but then you can actually go through one by one and kind of do a walk with a little bit of a kind of what the piece is and who's the artist, right? So it really helps you, tell that story of the information and of that data, on a map. You don't have to use a map. There's so many others that, so many other resources. But again, it helps you tell the story in a simple narrative and very attractive visualization. So, and there are many templates. They're super easy to use, and very there are already existing templates that would help you kickstart the process. So each one of these.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I just have a quick question about story maps. Does it allow for audio files too, or just written?
Yeah, audio files, imagery.
Video. You can add video into it for sure, and audio. I am aware of that.
Really cool.
I can try and find you one that does. But
oh yeah, I just put it in the chat. Have you come across the DTPR work project that is being led by Jackie Wu?
No.
It might be. I'm wondering if there's crossover.
Okay.
So the backstory is Jackie Liu was working with, she's part of the Sidewalk Labs team, working on the Sidewalk Labs project in Toronto, waterfront Toronto, the highly controversial one. But before that, she was with the City of New York, and she's been really always interested in how do we better leverage data in spaces, in physical spaces, like within cities, particularly. And so it's basically this idea of how do we digitize physical spaces that we walk through within the city and make it a digital experience. And so when you're showing me that, I'm thinking like that. In some ways, I think there's some parallels to what you guys are doing there with the stories function and what Jackie's working on with DTPR. Because her dream is to be able to walk through a neighborhood or walk through a city, and there'll be a whole digital layer to what you're walking through, and you can walk through and you can get information on your space around you, but you can engage with it, you can interact with it, so you can add your own stories and place it, almost like virtual geocaching in the sense that you can drop messages and stories and add information, and then the community creates a knowledge bank for the physical space through that interaction. And that any new person can come and see the history and the stories of the physical space they're walking through by engaging it with like a smartphone or something.
Right.
Now she's thinking that more on a neighborhood level as opposed to like country level, but the principles I think are the same.
I think, Jason, this to me it sounds a little bit like our digital trail project, no? Like the Canada Trail project?
Yeah, a little bit about like that. I think you're referring to almost a 3D type of engagement, like a digital twin type of.
I mean, yes, there's definitely that aspect to it, but like it's not like it's not, at least the way she's framing it, it's not like augmented reality kind of thing. Although it could go in that direction, she's not thinking there yet. Although what she's trying to do is lay the groundwork for something like that. It's more the idea that any physical place you go into, there's all this information that you would want to have about it. How do you make that information easier to be at people's fingertips? So like when you walk down a trail, having the different pieces of history that you walk by and you can pick up on your phone or something.
Yeah, I think Ali might be right there, because this Canada Trail is about the experience of someone walking that trail. They can make notes, they can take pictures, and they get uploaded onto those points in which they're at as a location, so that they remain there, so that when other people go down, they can actually tap on these different things and see what those pictures were and what those notes were, that type of thing, which is really interesting. The other thing that's interesting too is ESRI is also working with some of the gaming companies. So they're creating an integration into gaming engines. So that brings on a whole new realm of possibilities as well. And they're only just touching on that right now.
Yeah, we're being, excuse me, part of this, the advisory council is, we are being asked for a 3D base map, and that's been coming up more and more, and it's being explored as we speak. I know as we considered it a one time, and now we might be considering it at ESRI Canada to use that same data that gets shared by our contributors to create a 3D model or 3D base map. So that might be a new base map that's available in the future.
See? Well, I know we're at time, and I think we have a quick short break now, and I don't want to cut into people's break. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Very welcome.
I know I found it. I guess I'm afraid that my afternoon might be shot now. Because I'm gonna be
I love hearing that.
So that's quite exciting for me, and I already have some ideas in my head of stuff that I would like to do with it, for like taking my own sort of social map and then starting to put on a geographic map. But anyways, thank you so much.
If you need, feel free to reach out, and if I don't, Jason's there. If you need additional questions, either him, or myself, or him, we were happy to answer you. And if I'm not the right person, I'll definitely make sure to forward it on to the right person for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of your conference. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
All right.